Welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Shively, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and I'm on a 1 million pound mission. I've personally lost over 100 pounds. I've helped my hometown lose over 35,000 pounds, and now I'm on a mission to produce over 1 million pounds of results by helping you gain clarity about what you need to do to reach your goals and give you the confidence to take action. And my friends, the perfect time to start taking action is now. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 204, Real Food Keto, with my friends Jimmy and Christine Moore. Now, before we dive into the awesomeness of this episode, I want to give one of you guys a shout out because I am loving getting a chance to connect with you. I've been doing these free 15-minute coaching sessions, and if you haven't signed up for one of those yet, it's your favorite price, free, and I'll tell you about that after the show. But I've been able to connect with you guys, talk about the show a little bit, see if I can help you out with danger zones, setting goals, and today I want to feature a little soundbite from one of the people that I've gotten to connect with, and her name is Lindsay. She's from Maryland, so let's see what Lindsay has to say.
Hi, my name's Lindsay. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. I have listened to every single episode of the Million Pound Mission podcast. What I really love about it is that Adam focuses on the mindset more than like a specific diet program that you should be following. I think we all pretty much know how to eat, but it's the mindset that gets in the way. One of the biggest things that he's ever said that has really helped me was don't cheat alone. So it's just little tidbits like that that stick with you from the podcast that can help you to achieve more success. Thanks, Adam.
Lindsay, thank you so much. I really enjoyed getting to connect with you for our 15-minute coaching session. It was awesome. Now, speaking of awesome, let's dive into this episode. Now, you guys all know that I love to experiment with nutrition plans and then report back to you with what I learned. And one of the big takeaways I've had with my time experimenting with the ketogenic diet is that I feel like it's really important to not live off of processed foods, the cheese, sausage, dairy, all that stuff. And I get much better results, and my body just seems overall happier in general when I'm eating real whole foods that also fit into the ketogenic game plan, which means a few little, things like vegetables that sometimes people avoid. So those are some big aha moments. And my guests this week are actually experts in this exact topic. Now, Christine Moore, guest number one, well, ladies first. Christine is a nutritional therapy practitioner who specializes in real food-based, low-carb, high-fat, ketogenic nutrition. Now, she works diligently to get the underlying issues in your digestion, gut health, blood sugar, and insulin levels, easier for me to say, to optimize your health nutritionally in the most natural way possible. Now, let's talk about Jimmy. All right, my main man, Jimmy, he catapulted onto the health scene in 2004 after a phenomenal 180-pound weight loss, and that enabled him to come off of all of his prescription drugs, the high cholesterol, high blood pressure, the respiratory issues all went to the wayside. He is the energetic personality behind the top-ranked iTunes health podcast called The Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show, which I love that name of that show. You guys know I love a good name of a show. Now, Jimmy also hosts 3 other active podcasts, which are all awesome. He's got Keto Talk with Jimmy Moore and Dr. Will Cole. He's got the Nutritional Pearls podcast featuring his wife, Christine. And he's got the Keto Hacking MD podcast that he does with Dr. John Lemansky. Now, he's interviewed over 1,500 people that are in the top health and wellness professionals, and he has dedicated his life to helping people get the best information possible about living healthy so that they can make the right decisions for their health. Now, he is also, if that wasn't enough, he's also the international best-selling author of books like The Keto Cure, The Complete Guide to Fasting, The Ketogenic Cookbook, Keto Clarity, and Cholesterol Clarity, as well as his latest release, along with his wife, Christine, Real Food Keto. And that's what we're going to dive into with this episode. Now, we talk about how Jimmy and Christine, their adventures in dieting eventually led them down the path to a low-carb lifestyle and the ketogenic diet. We talk about the first time Jimmy felt like he was actually a normal size after his massive weight loss. We get their definition of real food when it comes to keto. We talk about some of the biggest keto or low carb mistakes they see people making. We talk about the common, cures to the common keto issues, things like irregular heartbeat, keto flu, digestion issues. And then one of the most interesting parts of this conversation, we talk about, in their opinion, how to handle the situation when our doctor wants to put us on cholesterol medication when we're doing keto. And that was super, super interesting. Now, I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna give you a little peek behind the curtains now. Something, I enjoy making fun of myself. I enjoy laughing at myself. And this is one of those podcasting moments. We have to realize Jimmy has been interviewed like thousands of times, and he's interviewed thousands of people. He's got a lot of names rolling around in the mental Rolodex. And during the interview, he refers to me as Alex several times. So it's just one of those things. I'm not, upset about it. I'm not embarrassed about it. I thought it was really funny. But I look like an Alex, and maybe he was having like a Jeopardy flashback. Like, yes, Alex, I'll take, casting the pod for 200. So just laugh along with me. Each time he calls me Alex, just have a little chuckle to yourself, and it's all good. So this was a great episode. We packed about 10,000 pounds of information into a 10-pound bag on this episode. You're going to really enjoy it. Lots of actionable takeaways. And Jimmy, let's just say that we can go toe for toe energy-wise, so you're really going to like that. So without further ado, let's dive into episode number 204, Real Food Keto, with Jimmy and Christine Moore. All right, Jimmy and Christine Moore, welcome to the Million Pound Mission podcast. How are we doing today, my friends?
What's up, Alex?
We're good.
I am fired up. This is something that I've been looking forward to with you guys, just from the sheer volume of interviews that you've done, that you've been a part of. I know this one's going to be high energy, and I have a feeling there'll be a few laughs along the way as well. All right. So I want to start off with a story. I want to hear about Jimmy, let's start with you first. I want to hear about all of your adventures in dieting that led you to the low-carb lifestyle. And then I want to know how Christine folds into the mix here, and how she has been involved in all this.
Oh, you don't have enough time for me to go into every story of every diet known to mankind that I did prior to finding keto and low-carb. But suffice it to say, if it existed as a diet, I was doing it. And it happened even when I was a very young child, watching my mama. I was a child of the 80s. And in the 1980s, if you were a kid, you watched rice cakes come in and out of your house.
Yeah.
You watched fat-free everything come in and out of your house. And Mama tried all those diets, the Weight Watchers, the Nutrisystem. There was one called TOPS, Take Off Pounds Sensibly. All of them were predicated on low fat and eating healthy carbs. And I'm going, okay. So when you want to lose weight and when you want to get serious about your health, you cut the fat, you eat more healthy carbs, and then maybe you exercise at the gym, walk on the treadmill for, an hour a day or whatever. And that was kind of what was set in my brain as that's what you do as the default. And it's not uncommon. There's a lot of people listening to this right now. Oh, yeah, that's how I grew up.
Right.
That's how you grew up.
Yep.
And so over the years, I did every incarnation of that low-fat template. And here's the thing that makes me mad now in hindsight. I never heard anything about carbohydrate restriction. I never heard anything about a low-carb diet being a positive thing in your life. All I heard was, oh my gosh, all that fat's going to clog your arteries and give you heart disease. Oh my gosh, how in the world do you have any energy if you don't eat carbs? You don't need to cut out a whole food group. You hear all these kind of negative things. And when I finally got past all the propaganda about low-carb diets and read a diet book that her mother gave me for Christmas in 2003, that's when it all changed. Tell them about your mama giving me the diet book.
Yeah, so I guess for several years at that point, she had been giving subtle hints to Jimmy that he needed to lose weight, like he already didn't know that he needed.
Thanks, Mom.
But him, Dr. Phil's book one year, and then it was another book another year. But then finally she gave him Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution. And Jimmy was like, okay, well, I've tried everything else, and he started reading it, and it actually, it was
unlike
weird.
any diet book I'd ever read in my life.
He was like, eat more fat.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah. So I read this book and I'm going, this guy's whacked out of his mind. He's a cardiologist and he's telling people to eat the very thing that we know causes heart disease, clogs your arteries, fat. But I was like, you know what? This is revolutionary. If it actually works to make me healthy and I get to eat things like bacon and full fat meats and cheeses and all the so-called forbidden foods that I've always avoided on diets, I can suddenly have them and lose weight and get healthy in the process. I'm in. Let's do this. And so January 1st, 2004 was when I started. So right around 15-ish years ago was the start of my journey. And I very quickly lost 30 pounds in 30 days. Mostly the first couple weeks was the water weight that's typical with weight loss. But then in the second month, I was so energetic that I had to go to the gym just to get the energy out of me, much less to get any benefit from the gym. I just had so much energy, didn't know what to do with it. And I started at 410 pounds. And so a very svelte 380 pounds, I end up in the gym and I start walking on the treadmill at 3 miles an hour for 15 minutes. Now, that's not fast now, but when I was 380 pounds, I tell people now, Alex, that I was weightlifting because I had a lot of weight on my body. I was lifting when I was walking on that treadmill.
Yeah, exactly.
And in the second month, I actually lost another 40 pounds. And that's when I realized, whoa, what is this magic that is this low-carb diet? I did end up losing a total of 100 pounds in the first 100 days. But more importantly, as I came off of several prescription medications for high blood pressure, for some respiratory issues. I think the respiratory one's the one that I came off of first because I stopped wheezing. I was wheezing, had to do the Advair. And then the one that I held on to the longest was the cholesterol medication, the statin drug. And I only stuck with that one because I was still at that point fearful of the fat that I was eating. Maybe this will be my safety net. But after 9 months, I'm going, I'm 100 plus pounds down. Why am I still taking this medication? So I threw it in the garbage can and I've never gone on another drug ever since.
That's fantastic. That's so exciting. Now, you mentioned the propaganda, and I feel like it's less today because of people like you that are out there, promoting the benefits of this lifestyle. But I mean, there's that fear tipping point that you have to get over when all of the medical information and all the doctors are like, you will die if you eat this way. What was that tipping point or that moment when you were just like, okay, I'm just going to screw it. I'm doing it anyway. And what tipped you over that edge to make that happen?
I'll tell you what helped. It was my brother, Kevin. So he was 4 years older than me. He passed away about 11 years ago at the age of 41. But at the time when I started this, he had already had a series of heart attacks and then all the ramifications that came in the years that followed. He ended up having a defibrillator put in. And I'm sitting there watching my brother Kevin go through this catastrophic heart disease ailment that then turned into type 2 diabetes, and he was morbidly obese. And I'm going, there ain't no way that's my lot in life. And so I had a little extra motivation thanks to my brother. I don't think he realizes how much he motivated me to want to do this. But watching him go through that, I'm like, no, that's my future if I don't do something now. And so that helped keep me on the straight and narrow pretty heavily during that year. I was also in a weight loss contest. I don't really talk about this a whole lot, but it was a weight loss contest. I called and there was this guy trying to do, what was it, a ton. He was looking for like five people.
Shrinking ton.
Yeah. So it was this afternoon host named Ralph, and Ralph's Incredible Shrinking Ton. So he wanted a ton of 5 contestants, and I was 410 when I started, but by the time I joined the weight loss challenge, the contest, I was down to 380, and so I was one of the slimmer ones on the. But I ended up winning that contest, by the way. A bunch of little local trinket things with his advertisers. Anyway, that's an aside. But that was a motivation as well that kept me going. And then this little lady, wanting to be there for her. She had worried about my health and worried about my weight, but by extension, she was worrying about my health. And so I had a lot of whys to keep me going that year.
Yeah. Christine, did you immediately jump on board with the low carb lifestyle? Were you right in sync with them, or was it kind of a delayed effect there?
Well, for me, I had kind of the opposite problem. I was underweight, and
she was 90 pounds when I met her, dude.
Wow.
Soaking wet, 90 pounds.
So I didn't see myself as having an issue to need to do that. And so, but everything that I was dealing with, my health issues, they were manifesting on the inside. I didn't put the connection between the diet and what I was dealing with. So for me, I really didn't come on board until the first time I started eating was 2009. I had gone to the doctor to get my lab work done, and my triglycerides came back at almost 300. And brought my lab work back to Jimmy. He goes, well, you know what to do.
That's carbs.
At that point, I just cut out my regular Dr. Pepper, my Skittles, and M&Ms.
She loved all three of those.
Yeah, so I just cut out those three things. Within 6 weeks, my triglycerides went from 298 to 136. I was still eating other crap, but just cutting out those three things just made that big of a difference.
Yeah. What was really interesting about her story was when she was 90 pounds, and she was 95 when we got married about 2 years later, she thought she was fat. She thought she was fat. And so what did she do, Alex? She went on a low-fat diet. And it was the low-fat diet that actually led to all those underlying issues that she dealt with autoimmune disease. We outlined this, by the way, in the introduction of our book, Real Food Keto. Her story is a lot more interesting than mine. I was a fat dude that got healthy. She was never fat, and she had so many underlying things going on. Go read that chapter alone, because it'll open your eyes to this is so much more than just about your weight.
Yeah. And I don't know why it was that I did the low fat diet in my 20s. I don't know why I did it, because I
the default diet.
Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's true.
We all did that.
Yeah.
That led to, my gallbladder needed to be taken out and a bunch of other stuff. So
she needed a spironectomy, and she lost a lot of weight. Just kidding.
Now, Jimmy, you mentioned that you tipped the scales at over 400 pounds. And, my audience knows that I refer to myself as a PhD. I weighed over 327 pounds. And I remember after I'd lost 100 pounds, and I remember the exact moment when I felt like I was more of a normal size, where I could buy a suit off the rack and it like fit. So do you have one of those moments where you're like, you did something that you couldn't have done before at your previously 400 plus pound body weight, and you're like, that's the moment that things started to change mentally?
Yeah, you know what it is? Travel. So when you go on an airplane, sometimes certain seats that we're in can be pretty narrow when you're a big guy. And so the first thing that I noticed when I started losing the weight and we had to travel in an airplane, I went, honey, look, it closes. It closes. Look, it's not, and it was just like this revelation of, wow, real change is happening. And of course, you see it in the day-to-day, so you might not see the dramaticness of it. That was the big thing.
I think it was, you had lost 100 pounds and people still had not noticed. It was,
yeah. That's a whole nother thing. He's talking about things that were positive. But from the negative perspective, what she's going at is nobody was noticing I was losing weight in the first 3 or 4 months. And I got to like 90, 95. Nobody noticed. But suddenly I've lost 100 pounds. And it's like somebody turned on this big bright light above my head and said, "Hi!" and just started talking to me. Yeah. People were like, people that never talked to me before suddenly started to talk to me. And I'm going, why are you talking to me? Why was I invisible when I was bigger and now I'm smaller and you can suddenly see me and want to engage in conversation with me? That was the weirdest thing. That messed with my head.
Yeah. Yeah. That whole like self-worth, self-commentary kind of comes into play there. We're like, do people like me just because I'm healthy now, or they didn't like me before? That's something that heavier people tend to deal with. We get inside of our heads and we beat ourselves up about it. Now, along those lines, this wasn't the first time that you'd lost over 100 pounds. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did a low-fat diet in 1999. It was actually a no-fat diet. That was the year my brother had his heart attacks. So I defaulted to the default diet that year. And I was like, I really don't want to be following in my brother's footsteps.
Fat-free marshmallows.
So yeah. So we worked at a Christian bookstore at the time. And yeah, I would go and I would bring in my food. I would have partitioned out naturally fat-free marshmallows and a low-fat food. It's a naturally low-fat food. Twizzlers. Did you know that? It says naturally low-fat food. And I had chicken breast and egg whites. And I did basically did no fat. And I successfully lost triple-digit weight. But I was miserable and I was hungry and I was irritable. This lady right here will tell you, we were like in our 4th year of marriage. And she's like, one of us is going to die this year. You or you're going to kill me from the stress, because it was stressful. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's not talked about enough about low-fat diets and why they're not effective for people. Yes, you can lose weight. I did. But can you feel good in the process? Because feeling good is a part of being healthy. And if you don't feel good, no matter how much weight you're losing, if you don't feel good on what you're doing, it's simply not worth it.
Now, do you have the fear of gaining it back at all now? Is that lingering at all? And I know that a lot of people deal with that.
Yeah, truth be told, I have gained back some weight from my very lowest amount. And I talk about this pretty often. I talk about a lot of the non-diet reasons why that happens, because I'm that much older now as well. So I think people think you go on some given diet, you lose weight, and everything is peachy happily ever after. And the reality is your body is constantly adjusting to the new you. And you're noticing this too, as Alex, going through your journey, that your body's trying to fight you tooth and nail to get back to where you were. And I really believe that whole set point theory, that your body's trying to get to a certain set point, is true. Doesn't mean you can't lower the set point. Doesn't mean you should give up on trying to lose weight. But what I try to get people to know in my work is it's so much more than just the diet. So how's your stress? I mean, I do multiple books and podcasts, and I know I put my body through stress doing that. Happy stress. I love every minute of what I get to do, but it's stress. So I'm already planning now in 2020, next year, we're going to take off 6 months where I do nothing. I've already told my publisher I'm not writing books. I've already told my podcast producer I'm not doing any podcasts. We're going to go off the grid, so to speak, for 6 months just to see if that will help alleviate some stress. Sleep is a big one. Hormonal imbalances. There's just so many X factors that are involved in that I don't worry as much about weight anymore as I do my health markers. And when I check in on my health markers, they all look pretty darn good.
Nice. Now, Christine, from a nutritional therapy perspective, what type of things have you seen both in your own health and Jimmy's, just in the progression, just since you've gone low carb and really focused on that game plan for a steady amount of time?
Yep. For both of us, I mean, fat is very important. I mean, because our brains are mostly fat, 70% fat.
Just calling you a fathead, yes. Alex. Just
so your sex hormones and several other hormones are needing fat to be produced. So if you're not eating fat, then you won't be able to effectively produce those hormones.
Yeah.
There are other, your fat soluble vitamins. If you're not eating enough fat, you're not going to be able to absorb those vitamins, the A, D, E, and K. And K is very important to tell calcium where it needs to go. So if you're deficient in K, vitamin K2, then, you're going to probably have calcium buildup in your arteries, bone spurs, that sort of thing, as maybe possibly at the same time having osteoporosis. So those fat soluble vitamins are very important. And, what I've learned going through getting my certification is that everything is interconnected. I mean, we need proper hydration in order for our lymph system to effectively move. We need to exercise to keep our lymph system moving. We need fats in order for the liver to be able to properly detoxify, because fat is what stokes bile production. Bile is what takes the toxins out of the body.
She's so cute when she's nerdy.
And so the toxins in the body are stored in your body fat. So somebody that has a little bit of extra weight on them probably
it's the body's way of trying to protect you.
Yeah. So you might need to look at your detoxification pathways to see, okay, am I having enough fat? Am I stressing my body with chemicals, that sort of thing? So, I mean, everything is just so interconnected.
Yeah.
And if one thing is messed up, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah, and we want to create a different type of domino effect of a healthy momentum gain, right? And you guys are putting a ton of resources out there. Jimmy's got 10 million different podcast episodes, and you guys got books and all this stuff. And your newest book has really intrigued me a lot, because I feel like this is a topic that needs to be talked about in the ketogenic community, and that is real food. And, you know, people, it's almost like you were saying with the low fat diet when you were eating Twizzlers and marshmallows. People kind of cheat, and it's similar but different with keto, where they're eating all these like fake sweet treats and you know, living off of dairy and things like that. So I want to dive into the real food keto topic. And first off, like, how do you define real food when it comes to keto?
So real food is anything that really doesn't have a label. I mean, you're going to have coconut oil will have a label on it, but anything you can grow in your garden, anything that's you know, meat, vegetables, anything like that that's not processed. Now, I want to make a qualification here. We understand that, Jimmy and I understand that life happens, and I just had to, you know, remind somebody of this on Facebook the other day. Someone asked about some meal replacement shakes. And, you know, there are some people that have busy schedules and they need something on the go. We're all for that if that's what they need. We'd rather them get their nutrition from real whole food sources, but we understand that real life happens. And once in a while, I mean, Jimmy and I, when we travel, we use these drop an F-bomb nut butter things. They travel really well.
But it's macadamia nut butter.
Yeah,
and
I
salt.
mean, so you look at the
real food.
The foods that you get that are packaged, and make sure they're on the up and up, you know, doing things the right way.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything that's not packaged, anything that you can grow in your garden.
If you have to clean up its poop, it's probably okay to eat. Like our chicken. We have 26 backyard chickens, and
Nice.
they poop us breakfast, so it's pretty amazing.
The magical breakfast poop.
Yes. What's your superpower?
So let's dive a little bit deeper on the real food keto topic. What mistakes are you guys seeing that really motivated you to write this book in the first place?
Well, I mean, I've been an observer of the community for a very long time, having gone into it as a blogger in 2005, a podcaster in 2006, which you mentioned those days, and people like, oh, they had blogs and podcasts back then? Yes, we did. I was one of the OGs, I suppose. But yeah, so there at the time, it was kind of the Atkins trend, the tail end of the Atkins trend. And what killed that trend was the food supply, the junk food supply of the low-carb products. Then along came paleo in 2010, and then all of the kind of caveman imagery of all these products, better quality junk, but it was still junk. And so when I started seeing what was going on in the keto world, that people were, and there's this movement right now, this dirty, lazy keto, where people say, well, just go to McDonald's, throw away the bun and eat that, and, you know, get a salad, get whatever vegetable oil based dressing you want. It's a dirty, it's a lazy keto, but it'll work because it's only about the macros. And I'm like, no, that's the wrong message to be sending. We need to be telling people the goal is real food. Now, if you came off standard American diet and you want to throw away the bun at McDonald's, get them, you know, that kind of thing to start, sure. But as the goal, you want to be consuming mostly real whole foods, because here's the thing nobody's talking about in the community is it's not just about your macros. Everybody talks about fat, protein, and carbohydrate. What I want to talk about that's a lot more interesting to me that does contribute to things like satiety and how you feel and energy levels is the micronutrition, which we spend a lot of time in Real Food Keto trying to explain why vitamins and minerals, specific ones, are necessary for your body to work the way it's supposed to.
Yep. Yep.
Nice. So I'm a big fan of diving into the micronutrients like you mentioned. And I've even seen research where, hunger can be brought about just from a lack of the nutrients. It's not a calorie thing at all. It's just your body saying, let's try again, let's try again, let's try again, because you're not giving me what I need.
Yes.
So I feel like that whole micronutrient profile is a huge topic to dive into.
Let me give you an example of that. Before I went on the Atkins diet, I was drinking 16 cans of Coca-Cola a day. It just was that 150-ish calories times 16. You do the math. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of calories, and yet I was constantly hungry. I was eating whole boxes of Little Debbie snack cakes, so like the Swiss Miss rolls, the Swiss rolls. I mixed together two foods there, but two Swiss rolls, oatmeal pies, the fudge rounds, all of those things. I would literally stick them in the freezer, and then we'd watch TV, and I would one right after the other. So I was feeding myself a lot of energy in the form of calories, and yet I was constantly hungry. And it's exactly what you just said. The satiety wasn't there because my body was telling me, keep eating, big boy, because we're not getting what we need. And that's where real food comes into play, where it fills those nutritional needs that you have that go well beyond the calories.
Well,
Yeah.
and I want to mention something too. A big mistake that I see kind of goes along with the calorie thing. I know for some of the clients that I've seen, they're big into these fat bombs and their bulletproof coffee. That they're constantly looking at the macros. Like, I've got to get enough fat in, I've got to get enough fat in. But at some point, calories do matter. But people can get too much fat in. I mean, they're thinking that they have to have this bulletproof coffee, so they'll have their bulletproof coffee in the morning, but they'll also have a big breakfast of bacon and eggs. People forget that fat has over twice as many calories per gram as protein and carbs. So it doesn't take as much fat as you think to get your daily allowance of the fat that you need. So,
and vice versa. There's people that undereat on total amount of energy, and all they needed to do was add maybe 1, maybe 2 more tablespoons of fat, and you're right there without slowing down your metabolism and causing yourself bigger issues down the road.
I mean, personally, I'd rather see somebody get their fat from whole food. So I'd rather them eat.
Don't drink it. Put it on your food.
I'd rather them eat it and not drink it. But I understand that it's like those meal replacement shakes in the morning. If you're busy, if that's all you have time to do, that's fine. But
but partitioned out specific amount of energy, whereas just throwing a stick of butter in your coffee. That doesn't make any sense to me at all, by the way. And I don't like coffee, so I guess that helps. But I would rather have the butter on my steak.
Yeah. Now you're talking, Jimmy. So PhDs think alike, Jimmy. I'm discovering this. Like, let's put the butter on the steak. Much better. Now, I've got a few keto kind of danger zones or tripping points that I want to run by you and get your opinion on, because you are, in the thick of things with this whole world. Now, a lot of people fear keto, and I try to talk to them like, hey, this might be the right path to go down. They're like, well, I can't do dairy at all. My body just doesn't tolerate dairy. Do you feel like you have to use dairy, like cheese, full fat, cream, things like that, to do keto?
It does make it easier. For me, I do have a limit as to the dairy that I have.
Because your autoimmune disease.
If I go over that set limit, then I start to get the psoriasis outbreak on the back.
She's like
of
a
my
little
skin.
dog, man. She's like, can't get that itch to go away.
So for me, I have to kind of limit the dairy. But you can get your other fat sources from avocado oil. You can get it from coconut oil. There, lard. I mean, any number of other fat sources. Certainly, dairy does make it easier, but it can be problematic for some people.
And they have a lot of kind of dairy alternative type things. Now, almond milk's another one that you could use. And I know they make like cashew cheese. So if you miss cheese,
I've had that.
It's not the same, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my clients make fun of me because I'm not a huge dairy person, but I'm not afraid to do a shot of olive oil, just a straight up shot, just drink it, and so if I have to, I'll just do it. And then I put a little bit in my hair and, it makes it shiny. So
have you ever put like a little whiskey in there with it? I'm just kidding.
Only
a little shot. I'm just getting my fat in. It's all doing.
Before every podcast, Jimmy, that's the secret.
That is fun.
It makes it more fun. Let's talk digestion and constipation. Because things tend to go one direction or the other. If people mess up their balances with keto, they're either like, it's liquid out of my, it's just flying out of me like as fast as it's coming in, or I can't go at all. What's happening? So let's talk about digestion.
So if you have diarrhea, then it's probably an indication of a food sensitivity. Your body is trying to get rid of whatever it was that you ate. And so that's oftentimes what diarrhea is. Now, constipation, on the other hand, is oftentimes due to inadequate hydration.
Yes.
So you're dehydrated.
And salt.
So, that's why a lot of people will complain of constipation when they first go keto, because you're dumping a lot of glycogen and fluid. You're losing a lot of fluid. So, and most of us don't drink enough. And so you will become constipated. And, things that can help with that. People are afraid of vegetables on a ketogenic diet for some reason. I don't know why, but the non-starchy ones.
Are you afraid of vegetables?
So
no.
eating your leafy greens can kind of help with that.
Keep things flowing. Is that what you're saying?
Keep things flowing. Yes. Making sure that you have you're feeding your good gut bacteria. So the vegetables will help with that, feeding your good gut bacteria, and that will kind of keep things moving too.
How many pounds of gut bacteria do we have in our body?
2 to 4 pounds.
2 to 4 pounds of just the bacteria. So that's a lot of sugars you have to. What would you say? Gross?
I don't even want to think about that. I don't even like thinking about like having blood inside my body, let alone bacteria, Jimmy.
They're on your skin. They're in your mouth. So you don't see them, but they're there. Billions, trillions of them.
And if you have good gut health, they're going to produce the vitamin B1 to 12 and K2.
And they also give you healthy fat production. They'll convert it in the gut into some of the healthy fats your body can use. So you don't always have to just eat fat. Your body's doing an efficient job of keeping it healthy, of making that fat for you.
Nice. We like that kind of efficiency with our body. Now, I want to go back to water, hydration and salt, because this seems to be a really important topic. Where I remember the first time that I went keto, I felt like I was drinking more water than I ever was, but I was just flushing it out. Then I started getting like heart arrhythmia and cramping, and I've always been salt phobic, being a heavier person, having blood pressure issues. I'm like, no salt. And then I finally just bit the bullet and I started doing like Himalayan sea salt, like it was going out of style, and everything was fixed. So let's talk, if somebody's drinking, like, let's just put a mark out there, like 100 ounces of water a day normally, they're active, and then they start keto. Do they need to increase that a little bit, or do they just need to increase their salt and electrolytes to make sure that is actually sticking?
So can I explain something now? I'll let you go all nerdy. So when you first start on keto, you're trying to shift your body from being a sugar burner to a fat burner. So what does that look like on the inside? Well, when you restrict down on your carbohydrates, the body's going to be like, okay, release the stores. And so the stores are your glycogen stores. It's all in all your muscles in your body. You have water, you have glycogen, which is sugar, and then you have salt and potassium and all the other electrolytes. It gets dumped out of the body. It's why you go to pee a lot when you first start. It's why you need to replenish a lot when you first start as well. So yes, if you're drinking 100 ounces of water in your normal day-to-day, and then you go keto, it's possible you'll need more than that, at least for a temporary period of time in that 2 to 4 week period that you're getting keto adapted. Will you continue to drink that much beyond that? Probably not. It will normalize over time, but you got to replace the magnesium, the potassium, the sodium, and the water. Those are the 4 key elements Christine likes to use this company, Jigsaw Health Electrolytes. It has a mixture of all of them. I use one called Keto Vitals. But just find some kind of an electrolyte supplementation and then drink some more. Both of us keep a nice water thing by us literally all the time because you don't realize just how necessary it is. Now, to your point about salt, I think with saturated fat and salt, those are the last two vestiges of the low-fat lie that still hang around in people's minds. Guys, if you're listening to this, let it go. Saturated fat is not the enemy. Salt from real whole food sources, pink Himalayan sea salt, is not the enemy. Don't get that one with the little girl with the umbrella on the front. It's not real salt. Get real salt. And if you add those to your life, it's going to change your world. It did for you, Alex, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
So, to your point, a couple of things. With the salt, let me tell you. So if you have normal blood pressure, 120/80, it would take 7.5 grams of salt to raise your blood pressure.
Ugh.
7 point. That's about
I'm getting dehydrated thinking about it.
Teaspoon and a quarter of salt. That's a lot of salt. So, and that would only raise it 5 or 6 points. Now, there is a certain segment of the population, very small, that's sensitive to salt, and they have to cut it back. For the majority of us, don't fear the salt.
So if I put a teaspoon and a half here and start eating, maybe.
As far as the water goes, I tell my clients, don't go over 128 ounces or a gallon in a day because you will flush those electrolytes and have those heart palpitations.
Yes.
People make the mistake of chugging water. Don't chug it. Sip it throughout the day.
Very nice.
So what happens is that, like Jimmy said, when you do first go keto, you dump the fluids, but you need to replenish. And oftentimes, if you have those heart palpitations, it's a sign of magnesium deficiency.
Yes.
Because calcium is what controls the muscle contractions and relaxation, but magnesium is what makes the calcium work. So don't go over the 1 gallon because you will deplete your electrolyte. You don't want to, balance. You don't want to do that. So just wanted to make sure that they knew that.
Well, and if you take your magnesium as magnesium oxide, don't get magnesium citrate or unless you love going to the bathroom in the middle of the night in the wrong way.
Glycinate is another one too you can do.
Was it?
Glycinate.
Yeah, so magnesium glycinate or magnesium oxide, take it about an hour before bedtime. It actually helps you sleep. Mm-hmm. So you get the benefit of the electrolyte plus the sleep benefit.
Yep.
Bonus. So just to clarify on the irregular heartbeat, is that mainly just the electrolyte issue that's doing that? Yeah. And
exactly.
Yeah. So that really freaks people out. Like if they're not used to
arrhythmia, you don't want that. It's no fun.
Yeah.
Because start feeling your chest flutter. It's like, holy crap, I'm about to have a heart attack. And
exactly.
It's your body saying, all right, dummy, you're not going to give me what I need. I'm going to send you some signals to not do that again.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember my first trip through keto. I laid down one night. I kept on getting woke up from a really strong heartbeat, and it would just wake me up and freak me out. So I'm like, all the doctors are right. The fat is killing me. Oh no! But
just to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And now, what about cramping? Is there any different recipe to handle cramping, or is it mainly again just pound those electrolytes?
It's just the electrolytes. I find that if I start to have a hand cramp or a leg cramp at night.
Feet. A lot of people get the cramps in the feet.
I will get up and get me a water bottle and put some of the electrolyte powder in there.
She sleeps with a water bottle like a teddy bear. She's got it. I'll know because in the middle of the night I'll hear crunch. It's like it wakes me up.
People don't realize that they're losing water even when they sleep through their breath.
Oh yeah, when you go. And I wear a ring that tracks how many respirations a minute I get. Right. And last night it was 15 respirations a minute. So you do that times 60 minutes, an hour, times the 7.5-ish hours it's a lot of, my mouth's just getting dry just doing that a few times.
Now, I'm interested in getting your opinion on the keto approved air quote sweeteners like erythritol, things like that. Like, is this Yeah. I always get nervous around sweeteners because I've been down that road before. They're like, sucralose, it's safe, it's natural. And then 2 years later, it gives you cancer. You know, it's like all these, this has happened to me like 5 different times, all these new sweeteners that are supposed to be safe and easy to use or whatever. So what are your opinions on things like erythritol?
The honest answer is if you can get away with not using them at all, or at least infrequently, then great. I think that is the goal. For Christmas, I baked a lot because we had my sister over. So I had some erythritol-based types of treats. So we use Swerve. We love cooking with Swerve when we're going to use something like that. But in general, I'd say if you don't need it and you don't really have to have it in your life, don't have it in your life. In my book prior to Real Food Keto called The Keto Cure, we had a whole chapter in there all about the various sweeteners and what's the good and the bad and the ugly based on the latest science. And what my co-author, Dr. Adam Nally, and I concluded was erythritol's pretty good and liquid stevia is pretty good. The problem with Splenda, sucralose, aspartame, which I call nasty tame. The problem with a lot of these different sweeteners is it's the bulking agent that they put in there because it's so intensively sweet that if they just put the sweetener, it'd be so microscopic. So they have to add this thing called maltodextrin. Well, maltodextrin is basically sugar. Right. So they're adding sugar to a sugar alternative, and you're going, what brilliant genius came up with this idea? So if you're going to get a sweetener, erythritol, and then liquid stevia to make sure you don't get the maltodextrin in you.
Nice. Now, I know we're running short on time here, but I wanted to dive in a little bit on one topic that I know you guys can definitely provide some ammo for my audience, because I've had so many people that do keto, are loving it, getting great results, they feel great, and then they go to their doctor, and the doctor freaks out about their like cholesterol and like it gives them the talk. So what kind of ammunition can we come back with our health and medical professionals and say, you know, here's the real truth, or how do we combat this? How do we not freak out, basically?
So what happens is patients go to see their doctor. Oh, you're doing that keto thing. Let's check your cholesterol. So then they go check the cholesterol. Triglycerides almost invariably come back under 100 if you're doing a well-formulated ketogenic diet. HDL almost invariably comes back over 50, which is really good. And then LDL-C is the one that they start to go, and then total cholesterol by extension. So LDL-C, when you have low triglycerides and higher HDL, is miscalculated. It's not directly measured. They actually do this whole little math equation called the Friedwald equation, and they pump in all your other numbers, and they spit out the LDL-C. A lot of people don't realize that. They don't realize LDL isn't directly measured. So if it comes back and your doctor's going all wackadoodle and saying statin drug, you're going to die of a heart attack tomorrow. And I have people write to me even as soon ago as yesterday, went to see their doctor, and the doctor's reading them the Riot Act and said, you will go on this statin or you will die of a heart attack by the weekend. They're saying that kind of crap to people. And it pisses me off to no end that they're doing that, because it's a lie from the pit of hell. So here's how you can combat that. It comes back your LDL-C is high, and thus your total cholesterol is high. And they think high is anything over 200 in total cholesterol.
And they're lowering that number.
And they're lowering that number. And then LDL, they really want it under 100. But if it comes back like 130, oh my gosh, it's ungodly high, you got to do something. It's at that point you say, you know what? Why don't we look at relevant markers that matter? And so show them the triglyceride and the HDL ratio, because that's what science is looking at right now. That's the relevant markers. Oh, well, we don't really know yet, so we need to, okay, you want to go down that path? Why don't we run a more advanced lipid panel? So ask for one by name, write this one down, NMR lipoprofile. So what that is called the particle size test. If you go to your doctor, I want to get the particle size test, ask for the NMR lipoprofile, and it'll show you they do directly measure that LDL, and it's the number of LDL particles and the number of small. Small is what you don't want. So when you're keto and you have low triglycerides and higher HDL, your small is going to be low. And so you have this nice, big, large, fluffy LDL particles that are benign in your health. They can't harm you when they're large, fluffy, only when they're the small BB size kind. Another thing you can ask for is a CT heart scan of your chest. All right, you think I need a drug for my high cholesterol because you're worried I have disease taking place. Let's actually look for signs of disease. I remember taking Christine to get a CT heart scan. I put it up on YouTube if you want to type in Christine heart scan. You should find it on YouTube. But it's a 3-minute test. And you lay there still, and it does a CT scan of your chest. And what it does is it gives you a heart calcium score. And both of us have come back like next to 0.
Another one you can do is a CIMT.
Yeah, I'm getting there. This is called building the story. You kind of let them sink in that information you just gave them, and then you go to the next point. Yes, and so you also can do a CIMT, which is a carotid intima scan of your carotid artery, and it looks for actual thickness changes that have happened there. There are so many steps in between getting a statin medication, and what's really interesting is the new cholesterol guidelines just came out, and your doctor may not know about this. The new guidelines just came out and said if you come back with a high LDL or total cholesterol, before they can prescribe you a statin, they must run a CT heart scan. Wow. So you're going to be hearing it probably from your doctor, but if you don't hear from your doctor, you heard it here first, go tell them. You know what? The new guidelines, doc, say that we need to actually look for signs of disease. Now, it may come back as 0 and you may be perfectly fine, and they may still try to push the drug, but you say, you know what? I'm looking at the latest science, and the latest science says triglyceride to HDL ratio is what I need to look at. You need that definitely under 3, ideally under 1. So if you have triglycerides of 70 and HDL of 70, that's exactly a 1.0 ratio.
Well, here's the thing about cholesterol, and you've seen this in your own life. Cholesterol is in the body for a reason. It's not the enemy. And I love the analogy.
It's not to clog your arteries?
I love the analogy you get with the firefighter thing, but cholesterol is in the body to deal with inflammation. That's why when somebody does have a heart attack, they look in there, there's cholesterol there, but that's not the cholesterol is not the problem. It's the sugar, it's the insulin spikes, it's the
inflammation.
That's what causes the problem in the arteries. And so the cholesterol goes to the arteries to kind of seal up those abrasions in the arteries. And that's what
it's a healing agent.
So if you take a statin to lower your cholesterol, you're taking away the very thing that's helping to fight inflammation in your body. So for Jimmy, his cholesterol was over 400 at one point. He had a bunch of dental work that needed to be done. He got those done. He had infected root canals. He'd had his mercury amalgams taken out. His cholesterol dropped 100 points just from that. So that tells you that the cholesterol was there for a purpose.
Protecting me. Yeah, I wrote a whole book about this. That's why I'm so passionate about it, called Cholesterol Clarity, if you want to learn more. But yeah, this cholesterol thing, people still worry about it. And I wrote that book 6 years ago, and it's still, people just still worry about it.
It's frustrating because doctors aren't looking, when they see the cholesterol, they're not thinking, okay, what is causing this cholesterol to be higher? They're not looking at the root cause, and it is frustrating.
No doctor ever said, go see your dentist, you have high cholesterol. But that's exactly what I needed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I feel like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we are starting to trend to see a few more medical professionals get on board with this now. I know that one of your podcasts is focused around that, but it's, do you think it's still just mainly like chiropractors and naturopaths? Are we seeing like day-to-day MDs get on board with this?
There's MDs and very well-known like cardiologists. I spoke at a conference in 2018, low-carb Houston conference, and Dr. Nadir Ali down there is a major cardiologist, highly, highly respected cardiologist. And he's all on board with this keto thing. And he's trying to influence his fellow cardiologists. I think we're getting more and more that are becoming convinced, okay, what a bill of goods we've been sold, and they're learning on their own. The sad thing is they're not teaching this in medical school. Medical doctors don't have really any nutritional health training. So why would they know about keto? Why would they care what the outcomes are from a diet? Because they weren't trained in diet. They were trained in pharmacological and physiological. And so I don't blame doctors. What I do blame is the system that allows this to continue in light of what we know with our food supply being full of what I like to call crappy garbage. In light of all of that, why aren't there real people standing up and saying enough is enough? We can't afford to keep people unhealthy anymore. They're getting fatter, they're getting sicker, and we are the reason why.
Here's what you can do. If you go to your doctor and he just insists that you take the statin, they have a certain protocol that they have to follow or they get sued, standard of care. So if he says, I want you to take the statin, and he will, label you as a non-compliant patient if you don't.
Unless.
Take the prescription, but don't fill it.
Thank you so much for this great Lipitor prescription.
Or if he's a doctor that will check up.
Sound effects by Jimmy.
Or if he will check up to see if you actually fill the prescription, but don't take it. Yes, it's kind of, you're throwing money away, and I hate that, but some doctors are just
Oh, you don't have to fill it. I wouldn't fill it.
Well, no, but if your doctor is one that will check behind you,
well,
there are a few doctors out there that will check behind you.
Oh, you need to check the records again, Doc, because I filled that prescription.
Yeah.
Look at my numbers next time.
Now, I think we may have set a record for this being the fastest feeling 60 minutes. Like, I felt like we've only been talking for about 10 minutes, but it's been 60 minutes. We've built some nice momentum here, and I want to make sure, before I cut you guys loose, that people know how to connect with you. Now, here's what I'm going to ask. You've got a ton of resources out there. You've got millions of podcasts, billions of books, all high-quality information. Where should people start? Where's the hub? Where's the best kickoff point as far as if they're interested specifically in keto and living a low-carb lifestyle?
Yeah, so I actually rebranded all of my stuff under one website to make it easy for people to find, because I do have a million different things. It's going livinlavitalow-carb.com has all the podcasts. I do 5 different podcasts that air basically every single day. One of my favorite new ones that I do is this one called Jimmy Rants, where I go on Instagram Live and I just rant about some topic in the world of nutritional health. Cholesterol comes up quite a bit, if you didn't notice. So, but we do the Live and La Vida Low Carb Show, the longest running health podcast. She and I do a podcast together called the Nutritional Pearls Podcast. I do a podcast called Keto Talk with Dr. Will Cole, a functional medicine guy. I do a biohacking keto podcast called the Keto Hacking MD Podcast. And I've written 8 books, working on my 9th with a 10th one right behind it coming in 2019. So, yeah, dude, I stay busy. livinlavitalow-carb.com. Christine actually has a website for her NTP practice.
Yeah, it's rebootingyournutrition.com.
And if you like what we said about Real Food Keto, we have a website for it, too, where we're putting all these interviews that we did with that, realfoodketo.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, I like to leave my audience with an action step. So I'm going to ask each of you to provide one quick action step around the idea of what can our listeners do in the next 24 hours if they decided, like, yes, I want to pursue a low-carb lifestyle, and they want to just better understand it and get the ball rolling. So what would one action step be for them that they could take in the next 24 hours?
Wow. I would say don't fret over getting your macronutrients. It's kind of hard to say really quickly. Make the best choices you can for the situation you're in. If you can't afford grass-fed beef, that's fine. Just do the best you can.
Nice.
And I would say 3 words, loud and proud. Stop fearing fat, because that's the thing that's holding people back. And if you fear fat, and you realize that fat is actually the energy source when you cut your carbs, you got to have energy, and protein ain't it. It's fat. So you have to embrace fat. Fat is your friend. Make it your new BFF. go steady with fat, whatever terminology is going to make you remember this. And don't make out with fat. That would look kind of gross, but yeah, the butter. But that's so going on Instagram. So yeah, I would say eat more fat. Don't fear fat. Be glad that fat is in your life, because fat is your friend.
I think I just came up with a title for this episode. Let's make out with fat.
Let's make out with fat.
I'll kick in like the Barry White voice on the intro. We'll get it going. Now, you guys, I know you're super busy. I appreciate you so much for coming on today. There's so much information out there. I was excited for this one. I was also kind of nervous. I'm like, man, there's so much I want to talk about. How do I narrow it down to just 60 minutes? So I might hit you guys up for like a follow-up Instagram Live or something like that. We can rant together. But I just appreciate your time. It's high quality stuff, and I can't wait for my audience to dig into this one and just take those value bombs out of it.
Awesome.
Thank you, man. As somebody that does this for a living, dude, you are a number one. You're awesome.
You're good.
All right, everybody. It's time to get into action. You've been inspired. You've got the knowledge. You've got all the tips. And now I want you to get out there and own it. Every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Hey, thanks for hanging out after the episode. It's your buddy Adam, a.k.a. Alex. Oh, that was awesome. I love it. Jimmy and Christine are just fantastic people. Make sure you check out all their info in the show notes. You will not regret it. Dive on in. Now, at the beginning of the show, you met my friend Lindsay from Maryland. Her and I, we did a 15-minute free coaching session. I loved it. I think she loved it. She got a lot out of it. And I've been doing these every week, several times per week. I get to connect with you guys. It is awesome. I absolutely am having a blast with it. If you want to do one of those free 15-minute coaching sessions, if you're somebody that's struggling with escaping the black hole of fitness doom, if you are one of those people that has lost weight and gained weight over and over and over again, and you just need a little bit of help, you need a little bit of coaching, you need a little bit of support, it's absolutely free. I just connect with you. It's not a sales pitch. I actually tried to not sell anything, and when people ask me about stuff that I do sell, I'm like, this is making me uncomfortable. I might have to sell something. So it's just a good time between friends. You and I get to connect and see if I can help you out. So go to millionpoundmission.com. You will see the link to sign up for a free 15-minute coaching session. It's about halfway down the page. And scroll on down, sign up, get on my calendar, and let's connect.